Hello, everyone, and welcome into your daily card pull. This is for Tuesday, September 5th. So I hope everyone had a good weekend, maybe a long weekend for some of you. And we did have Jupiter go retrograde yesterday, which that isn't as heavy of an energy as some of the other ones. So with Venus going direct on the 3rd, that should have cleared up some of that heavy energy, or you might be slowly starting to feel your energy returning to you. So before we jump into the individual signs for today, we'll pick out 3 cards, just kind of a general overall reading for the collective. Also, something new that I'm doing is in the description box. If you click in there, I am putting the times for when I start each of the different sets of signs in case you don't have the time to listen through all of it. And I know I don't always start with the same signs every time. So in the description box, you'll see that. And I know at least on my phone, when I click it, then it takes me to that part of the actual video. So let's go ahead and see what is coming through for the collective. The Magician, the Ace of Wands, or Ace of Feather Dusters here. And then we have the 5 of Wands. So with your Magician energy, this is transforming, lead into gold. This is how do you move that energy, that, heavy energy, or if you're not in the right place, how do you move yourself and get yourself into alignment where you need to be. With your Ace of Wands, that's going to be that kind of excited energy, like new beginnings, new things are coming through. But then with your 5 of Wands, this is about some conflict. So even though that one came out last, I would say there is that energy of, sometimes when you're doing something new, there's people that are going to push back on that. And some of what you're being called to do is take that energy of, if other people are pushing back on what it is that you're trying to do, transforming that energy into momentum going forwards. And maybe it could be if this 5 of Wands energy is coming up first, it could be that that's what's spurring you into creative new avenues, however that's manifesting for you. But being able to turn that conflict into energy that's feeding this new creative endeavor, this excitement that you have going for you. So that is the overall energy for the collective. And now we'll go ahead and jump in. Today we'll start with our water signs. And so that is going to be our Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. And let's see what message is coming through for you for today. The Hermit. So this is, that energy of just kind of being on your own, seeking your own inner wisdom, kind of a little bit secluded from other people, but you're working through, you're like deep in thought, you're deep in contemplation, figuring out what you need to be working on. Maybe there is something that's weighing your mind down and you just need some time to process it on your own. Your Gaia card is Harmony, Power, Self-Confidence, and Productivity. So part of that sense of harmony comes from when you are self-confident. Like a lot of times energetically you'll feel, out of balance with people when you're not able to stand in your truth. So to some extent, the more you front with other people, whether it's friendships, whether it's at work, whether it's romantic relationships, the harder it is for you to have any sort of inner sense of harmony or productivity, because it's that mismatch. You're directing more energy towards managing a situation than you are directing, that energy in a more productive, in a happier, more fulfilling way. So that hermit energy is calling you to think about how do you embody that harmony? How do you live in that harmonious energy? All right. And your Moon card is Nothing will come of this situation. And that's something that if you've been kicking something around for a while and you're trying to see it from a different perspective. You're trying to figure out, what do I, what's my next step here? It could be that there really isn't a next step with that other than, to walk away. This card is befriend the word polarize. So it's interesting because, polarizing is usually not necessarily thought of as a harmony type of card, but when we put this with the original three, in terms of having some conflict and some rivalry, and then you're being called to transform that energy into something new and exciting, it definitely feels like there's some conflict and rivalry, but nothing's going to come of that. So, with this whole thing with the word polarizing, it's okay for people to have different opinions. Like, with this harmony card, it doesn't mean that you have to be in harmony with everybody else. This is about being in harmony with you. So if you're standing in your power and you're standing in your self-confidence, you'll have inner harmony, which may create some imbalances in your 3D world, but that's where it comes into play, like really aligning with what is your soul purpose, what is your soul mission, what path is it that you want to be on. And once you can align within yourself, then you're able to interact more, I guess, smoothly or comfortably with other people, because you'll realize that, if somebody is not at the same vibration as you are, if they're not seeing things the same way, it's not about, oh, how do I force myself to be in harmony with this person? It's kind of that acknowledgement of, okay, you're thinking this, I'm thinking this, I'm going to keep going down this path, and it makes it less emotional, I suppose. That was for our water signs. So next we'll move on to our air signs, which is our Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Let's see. Death. So the Death card, this is about endings, and it's about kind of closing out of a cycle. There is an element of rebirth that happens with that. So as one thing is falling to the wayside or being left behind or closed out, however you want to phrase that, you're making room for something bigger, better, more profound to take its place. Sometimes that's about, you've learned whatever lesson, you're coming to the end of a lesson, you've learned it, and now that issue is going to fall to the wayside. All right. Then your Gaia card is Tree of Life, fertility, creativity, destiny, and magical blessings. So part of it with the whole Tree of Life, also, there is a death component to that. So, every year in the winter, it starts to get cold, the leaves turn pretty colors, then brown and fall off, and the tree kind of rejuvenates itself and rebuilds, and then comes back the next year. So this Tree of Life, death is part of that cycle. All right, let's take a look at your Moon card. A new start is coming. So that, with this, like we were talking about, things have to end in order to make space, mentally make space, give yourself energetic bandwidth to be able to focus on something new. Something has to fall off the plate. And that is what you're kind of in the midst of right now, is a transition sort of period. And it seems like a lot of it, especially with these retrogrades, as people are reflecting and ascending, it seems like there's an awful lot of energy in the collective these days about more and more people moving forward on their awakening journey and that whole ascension process. And that's all about shedding what's no longer serving you to be able to move on a different path. Light in the unexpected. So some of this with this new start and with this new moon, look, essentially you can barely see any bit of light right there. So this card is calling you to look for those tiny little glimmers of light in something unexpected that's coming up. Maybe it's something that you wouldn't normally say, hey, that's a great idea. Let me jump on this. Let me move in this direction. But as new or unexpected things come across your path, maybe give it a second chance or think about it a little bit longer and see if that's maybe something you're being called to do. That was for our air signs. Now let's move into our fire signs and see what message is coming through for you. The Lovers. So this is a card about like harmony, that loving, happy, fulfilling relationship type of feeling. If you're not in a relationship, that card can also be seen as a card about decision, that you have a decision to make. This is also about balancing your inner masculine and feminine. So sometimes if you like either, if you're not in a relationship, or maybe you feel like things are pretty smooth in your relationship, this can also be a call to balance your inner masculine and feminine energies. Let's see what comes up for your Gaia card. Winter's End. Regeneration, rebirth, positive outcome. And this might be a situation where you have one relationship is ending, or something in your life is closing out, I'll call it, closing out to allow room for this Lover's energy to come in. Now, next, let's take a look at your Moon card and see what Moon card is coming through for our fire signs. The answers you need are coming. That's full moon in Gemini. And it could be one of those things when you're looking at this Winter's End with regeneration, rebirth, and there's a positive outcome, that you were just kind of waiting for answers to something that you felt like you couldn't take the next step because you were still waiting for a few things to come to fruition, or you were waiting to hear back about something, but now you're ready. You're ready for taking that next step since you're getting those answers that you need. Let's take a look at your Sacred Creator card. Choose who you are becoming. And this is great because with this regeneration and rebirth, anytime something is ended and we're talking about this regeneration type of energy or rebirthing, it looks like you're in the midst of rebirthing something very positive from a love standpoint, and you get to choose who you're becoming. So just because you've maybe always done something one way in the past, that doesn't mean that you have to keep doing it that way. You get to make that choice. Maybe you've always been, I don't know, whatever the situation is. Maybe you're always the one that makes all the decisions, and maybe this time you don't. Maybe you rely more on the other person to be able to make the decisions. And if this is feeling like it's your situation, resonating from a relationship standpoint, you get to choose with a new relationship. You get to choose how you want to show up without having all that past baggage. If this is from a job perspective, maybe you're in the midst of getting a new job, and again, you get to choose how you want to show up at work. So think carefully about who it is that you want to become and how you want things to look, so that way you can make choices that are consistent with that and that can bring you into that sort of alignment and what it is that you're looking for. All right, earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, the Devil. I need to say that I know the Devil came out twice yesterday. I'm wanting to say one of them may have been for earth signs, that Devil energy. And remember, this is that energy of whatever is tempting you and pulling you off of your path. And we talked a lot about that it isn't just necessarily like addictions and, or sex or overeating or shopping or gambling. It's not necessarily just those vices. It's whatever is keeping you from being your true self, keeping you from your path. All right. Liberation, breaking free from a negative attachment. And some of that could be, as we're looking at this Devil energy, of how do you break through that? And putting it here, I would say some of that is probably if you're sitting here with this Devil energy, or that's the heads up that that's what's coming for you for today. that's going to go with some of this conflict. Sometimes your devil energy could be whatever it is that you do because you're avoiding conflict, but I think it's going to pop up for you as a source of conflict, and you're being challenged. How do you break free from these negative attachments? How do you transform this energy into something better? How do you transform it into that path that you want to go down, that, your soul journey path? How do you transform these tough situations? All right, let's take a look at our moon card. Balance, spirituality, and practicality. And this has kind of been a big one in terms of, a lot of the energy these days and the push about standing in your true, authentic self. One of the things that's interesting, though, with this is a lot of times people maybe struggle with they're too much on the practical side and they're not enough on the spiritual side, but there's also a little bit, I would say, of a warning in there of don't go so far to the other side that every single choice you make throughout the day is just 100% purely focused on the spiritual part. There is such a thing as going down the spiritual rabbit hole. And so sometimes, especially for anybody watching who's, like on a twin flame journey or hitting like a dark night of the soul, whether that's on just a regular or on your spiritual ascension journey, sometimes there is that tendency of replacing some of that obsessive energy and just refocusing it and being obsessive about the spiritual side of things. So just make sure that you're kind of keeping everything in a good balance. Because I know a lot of times it's, and let's work on ourselves. And, I see that posted in a lot of the groups about, you need to work on yourself, work on your healing. And to some extent, obviously, yes, that's something good to do. But a lot of the path and the journey is about just being, like not trying to control something, not trying to do this. And so if you're so focused on, I have to do this, now I have to do this, I have to work on my healing, it's almost like you've created a new addiction in your life, and that's what your addiction is. So it's how do you just kind of go with the flow, just live and be. All right, celebrate your wins. So along this path, when we're talking about liberating yourself from these negative attachments, it's usually a process. It's usually, especially depending on how much of this heavy devil energy you have in your life, it's not necessarily that, boom, okay, I've now released those attachments. So especially if they're ones that have been present for a long time, it takes a while to do it. You kind of have to, snip the strings, like one at a time and let that happen, but celebrate your wins. If you're expecting it to be an all or nothing and you say, I tried to do it and it didn't work, I guess I'm just a failure, you're never going to get out of this cycle. So sometimes the wins, it's tiny little steps, but if you put enough of those together, then you get to where it is that you want to go. So make sure you celebrate your wins along the way to keep your momentum and enthusiasm going forward so that you can help get yourself into a better place. So I hope today's message has been helpful for you. And if this is information that you think somebody else could benefit from, I welcome you to share this information with them. There are some new videos coming up this week. I think I'm going to try a couple of other different things like the Pick Your Piles, where there's 3 different sets of tarot decks and pick which one resonates with you, and then you can listen to the message that goes along with that. So if you want to make sure to be alerted when those new videos post, hit that subscribe and notification bell. Also, if you're looking for a more personalized reading, in the description box, there's also a link to Etsy where you can request a personalized reading too. So I wish you peace and joy along your journey. Until next time, bye-bye.